Are any of you out there wondering what kind of needle you need to buy for your sewing machine? Well, a lot of people when they get started sewing, they have the same problem you are. You know, they're wondering which kind of needle do I need to buy? Which size do I need to buy? Do I need to get a 17, an 18, a 19, a 20, a 30? There's so many different size needles. Am I going to be sewing on leather? Do I need a leather needle? Do I need a special needle for vinyl? I'm going to be sewing on canvas. What if I'm sewing on vinyl and leather at the same time? Or what if I'm sewing canvas to vinyl? Which kind of leather? How thick of a leather? How much material? You're going to be sewing on cars? You're going to be sewing on boats? Are you going to be doing canvas work? Do I need a special needle for canvas? Do I need a special needle for this? Do I need to get a needle with an S point, a D point, an A point? Do I need a leather point? Do I need a sharp point? Do I need a fine point? Do I need a ball point? Do I want my stitches to be straight? Do I want them to be crooked? Do they all line up? Oh my God, there's so many options. I'm going crazy. There's 1,000 different points. There's 1,000 different kinds of needles. Which size needle do it fits my sewing machine? How long does it need to be? How thick does it need to be? Does it fit in the size thread I'm going to use? Which size thread do I need to use? Does it need to spin down the thread? If you put it on a piece of thread, should it stay there? Forget this. I don't even want to start sewing anymore. There's so much useless information out there about needles. Do any of you guys feel like that? Well, don't worry, because you're not the only one. That's why today I wanted to make this video for you guys just on needles, so I can give you the straight answer on exactly what kind of needles you're going to need to use for this type of upholstery that we're going to be doing here at the Lucky Needle. So when you're first shopping for a needle, the first thing you need to do is find out which kind of needle system that your machine uses. And this is basically just a number that the manufacturers use to know which size, how thick, and the length and everything that works on your sewing machine. Now, most of the sewing machines you guys are going to use a needle system called 135 by 17. And that's usually right on your package of needles. You can see that here. A lot of these other numbers, they're also classifying the needle system. So if you're in your manual, you can usually find this in your manual, what size or what number needle system your machine uses, and it might give you one of any one of these four. So that's why they have all these numbers on here for designating the needle system of your machine. Why it's like that, I have no idea, but this is what you need to know to find the right needle for your machine. Now, like I said, most of the machines you guys will probably be using these walk-in foot straight stitch machines. Most of them, they use the 135 by 17. So that's what we're going to be using as an example in this video. And if you don't have the manual for your machine, you can always just do a quick Google search. You know, if you have a Juki DNU 5041S, you can do a search, you know, Juki DNU 5140S needle system, needle size, you know, something like that, and you should be able to come up with the information that you're going to need for that. So after you have your needle system, what you need to do is decide the type of needle that you need to buy. And I'm just going to make this really easy for everybody out there. For pretty much everything that you're going to be doing, you're just going to want to get the standard universal needle. And they go by a couple different names, but it's the type of point that it is called it's called the R point. And this is just your standard universal needle. It's actually kind of confusing because usually when you buy these packs of needles, it doesn't have any designation for the point on the universal needles. So that might be something that is confusing you guys. If your packs of needle doesn't say anything on it, that means it's a universal needle, and that's what you want to use. 99% of the time, that's what we're going to be using. You can use it on vinyl, canvas, leather, you know, really anything you can use these needles on, and it's going to work really well for you. So that's what I would suggest that you get when you're starting out. Don't experiment with a bunch of other different types of needles and get yourself confused. Just go with the universal. Now, that being said, they do make needle points that are designed specifically for sewing leather. And basically what the difference is the needle point has an actual cutting surface that cuts through the leather instead of tears the fibers in the leather. Now, the universal needles typically do this just fine, but let's just say you're doing a whole lot of leather work and you want to see the difference that they have in sewing. You can go ahead and try one of these, and I would recommend getting a needle point SD, and that's going to give you the nice straightest stitch when you're sewing through leather, and it's just kind of a universal leather needle for the type of leather work that we might be doing. But again, if you're just starting out, I still would recommend going with the universal needles, and then if you want to try these out, you can go ahead and try these out. The leather needles are also a little bit more difficult to find. I've noticed that the SD needles don't come in as many sizes, so you might have to make a little compromise there. And then the next thing, which I'm just bringing this up in case anybody here watching plans on doing some really heavy duty leather work, like if you're going to be sewing belts or doing some sort of, really thick leather, what you need to do is get yourself a DI leather needle, because this is going to really, what it does is it just cuts through that really thick, hard leather, and it doesn't make the machine work quite so hard, and you're going to run into a lot of needle breaking problems if you're starting to sew leather that thick. So honestly, I've actually never used one of those because I don't sew leather that thick very often. So, but if that's something you're going to get into, I just wanted to bring that up for you. So the next step, we need to decide which needle size we want. And I'm going to make this really easy for you guys. Your needle size is going to depend on two things. Obviously, you want to poke the smallest hole through your material as you can, but it still needs to do two things. It still needs to fit the thread through that needle without breaking the thread, and it also needs to be strong enough without breaking to go through the amount of material that you're sewing. So what I would do if I was you, I would buy size 18, size 20, size 22. If you're just starting out, these are the three sizes that you'll probably use the most. And if you want, you can buy some sizes in between. The needles are real cheap. You can also get 16, 17, 19, 21, whatever ones I didn't mention. But when you're just starting out, 18, 20, 22, those are going to be really good sizes for you to start out with. Now, I know the next question you're about to ask is, okay, we know the needle size, but which thread do we use? Well, to make this easy for you, I would say 95% of the work that I do is all going to be in size 92 bonded polyester thread. That's what I would buy. That's what I would use for pretty much every job. It's a really nice thread. It's good and strong. It stands up to the sun. It's a good size. It's not too thick. It's not too thin. It's one of those threads that's just, you can pretty much use it for just about anything. So what you want to do with size 92 thread is you want to start with a size 18 needle. That's what I usually do. And your size 18 needle, if it's sewing through everything just fine and good, that's awesome. That's what you want to stick with. If you ever start to have an issue where your needle is breaking because whatever you're sewing through is too thick, then you're going to want to jump up a needle size. I find that there's some information online saying if you take your needle and you put it on a piece of thread and put it upside down and watch how it falls and it's supposed to spin around. For me, that doesn't make any sense, because there's more that you're worried about than just whether or not the thread fits through the eye of the needle, because you have to worry about how strong your needle is. You have to worry about the size of the hole that you're putting through the fabric. So again, the goal is to put the smallest hole through the fabric while still having the needle strength to push through everything you're doing. So a lot of times, we're doing really thick stuff, so that's why I recommend starting at around at 18. If you have 17 laying around, that's perfect. I think 16 might be a little too thin for what we're doing. All right, and then after that, really all you have to do is decide on the needle brand. And there's really 3 or 4 major manufacturers of needles. Honestly, I don't really have an opinion on which one is better. It's just whatever I find in the size that I need. If I'm buying them at the upholstery store, it's whatever they have, or if I'm buying them online, it's whatever I can find in the size and the type that I need. I'm going to jump over to the computer really quick and show you guys exactly how to buy needles online and everything that you need to search for. Alright, so we're going to head over to one of the websites that I've found to be easiest to order needles on. It's called the Thread Exchange. And one of the really nice things about this website is that you can actually look up directly on this website which needle system you need for your machine. On the machine that I have, I already know it takes the needle 135 by 17, so we would just go ahead and click on this one right here. But let's say you don't know what size, what needle system your machine is using, so you can just come here and go to sewing machine needle system reference, and then you're going to want to find the manufacturer of your machine here. So one of my machines is the Juki LU562. So let's just use that for an example. We would go here, one of the LU models. We would come down on the model here. And we're looking for LU562. So right here, it's got my machine right here. And then what we're going to do, it shows the needle system. It actually shows the 3 different designations for the needle system, which is kind of nice. But we're going to click on this one right here, and then it's going to take us straight to the page where we can order the needles from. And this is going to be, each one of these, it's got it separated into sizes. This one's from size 9 to 14. This one's size 16 to 20. And just in case you were wondering, a lot of times they show the size like this with the 100/16. I always just go off the size 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, that number there. What this other number is right here, they also use this as a sizing. Basically all this is, it's the measurement in millimeters. So for 100, that's basically 1 millimeter. If this size, for size 20, it's 1.25 millimeters. That's all that means right there. So let's go ahead and click on here, because that's what we're going to be looking for. So you can see here how it has, the size needle. This is the, again, the needle system. This is the size 16. We're not looking for 16. Let's go for 18. So right here, this is a size 18 needle, the needle system we need. Right here, this is the needle point type that we were talking about earlier. So we're looking for type R. So type R is going to be that universal. See right here it says R points are universal, round points for sewing woven fabrics, artificial leather, coated woven fabrics. So this is basically type R is what you're going to use for everything. So we would want to order, the pack of 10, size 18, pretty cheap. So that's why I say, order a couple different sizes. We're going down here. Then we'd want to check out, we can get a size 19 if we wanted, size 20, and then we'd have to go to the other page for size 22. So right here, this is one of the needles that has the SD needle point for sewing leather. This is the one I would recommend. Problem is, this is a size 16 needle. I think that's going to be a little too thin for what you guys are doing most of the time. And earlier I was saying that it gets kind of difficult to find some of these leather needles, these SD needles in different sizes. So you can see here they've got it in size 16, and it looks like they don't have it in size 18, 19, or 20. So let's check to see if they have it in a larger size. So here we got, the 21 in the universal like we were talking about. So it looks like they have the option in the SD in size 22 and 16. So, maybe we want to order one of these size 22 SD needles just so we can see what it's like. It's only $3.50, pretty cheap. So I think it's worth it to get one of those, and you guys can test and see for yourself which one you like better. I would think that if you're doing leather all the time, This SD one, you might like a little bit better how it sews, but the problem is if you're going back and forth between leather, vinyl, canvas every single day, it can be kind of annoying to switch your needles out all the time. So that's why typically for most of the jobs I'm doing, I stick with the R-type universal. So I hope that really helps answer all the questions that you have about needles and will help you get started sewing right away, because I know there's so much information out there, it can get really confusing. So if you like that video, wait till you see all the courses we have available at theluckyneedle.com. Make sure you click right here in the corner and you can get all the information you'll need.